Dogs and Stingray are coming for you. This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever! So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes. Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings. He's got it. Jennings. He's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end this game. What a play. Wow. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well, and especially with the big holiday weekend coming up, and I'm sure you've already noticed that I'm a lot clearer than I was 1 week ago when we tried to show this interview. So we've got the internet issues fixed. So without further ado, here is our special interview with the one and only Lee Roberts of Southern Miss. But before I play it, I do want to wish everyone a very blessed and safe Memorial Day weekend. So without further ado, here is our interview with the one and only Lee Roberts, Southern Miss to the top. Welcome inside another exciting edition of the Stingray Show. Everybody, I am your host, Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray. And as you notice, I've got some Southern Miss attire on. So we're talking the Golden Eagles on this edition of the Stingray Show. But before we do that, let me go ahead and pull up my Mississippi State Bulldog host, Heath Hopkins. Heath, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing all right. You know, you could introduce me as my, high school mascot or my high school, I don't have to always be your Bulldog host, right?
That's true. But you are a proud graduate of Mississippi State. So,
hey, Steven, you look like a proud graduate of the Cobra Kai dojo with your black and gold right there, man. You're looking good.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this. And of course, this shirt is a little bit big because I've lost weight since I purchased this shirt. But what now?
Say good for you.
Thank you, man.
My shirt's a little tight, but we won't get into that, right?
But you know more about our guest than I do, because I actually did not start covering or watching college football until 99 and 2000. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce our guest today on the Stingray Show. But I will say he is a Southern Miss great.
Oh, absolutely. And if you followed Southern Miss, back in the mid-'90s, there's one man who's tied, if I'm not mistaken, I was looking at it earlier, tied third all-time on the career touchdown list with a guy with the name Bret Favre. Yeah, tied with Bret Farve. This man here with career touchdown passes. And right now he serves with Southern Miss. He does the color analyst for the Golden Eagles. Let's bring in our guest, Lee Roberts. Lee, how are you today, brother?
Hey, I'm great, man, and appreciate you guys having me and look forward to, our conversation over the next little bit. And, obviously the intro is great, so I appreciate that. And again, to just be named in the same conversation with Bret Favre, is pretty amazing. It's funny. People ask me, do you see Bret? Do you get to do this? Do you know Bret? I'm like, yeah, I know Bret. I mean, we see each other in passing, but, we're actually two totally different fellas living two totally different lives. We just happen to cross paths every now and then and just happen to both be quarterbacks at Southern Miss. So it is an honor for sure.
Lee, does it bother you that you didn't have one more touchdown pass than him?
I'll tell you this. So my final game, and even when Bret was playing, they didn't count bowl games in your stats. Now they do, which is another story for another day. But I will say this. So my final regular season game, we're playing out at University of Nevada, and Coach Bauer actually took me out of the game. We were up, pretty big, and I came up one touchdown shot. Did it matter? No, it didn't matter. To my parents, it mattered. And we ended up giving up a touchdown to Nevada, and Coach Bauer put the starting offense right back in, and we ended up going down. I threw my 50-second touchdown pass to Heath Shaw. I got to tie Bret Farve as far as then most touchdowns.
Oh no! We were starting so good.
Yep, I got you now.
Okay, wonderful. All right, you cut off. Let's start over. Coach Bauer put the first team offense in. You got your touchdown against Nevada. Go from there.
Yeah, so Coach Bauer, we gave up a touchdown, and he immediately put the first team offense right back in, and again, it gave us the opportunity to go down and score another touchdown, and end up throwing my 52nd touchdown of my career, which at the time, tied for the most touchdowns with Bret. It since then has been shattered by multiple other quarterbacks. But again, just to have a record with Bret Farve is pretty amazing, and just kind of how all that went down. I kidded about me not caring about nonsense. But like I said, to my parents, it was a big that I was able to go back 50 seconds. Again, they don't count bowl records or didn't count bowl games then. Now they do. So offenses have changed, things have changed, and the game of football really has.
Gotcha. So does it bother you though that was there ever one called back or a bowl game touchdown that would have put you over? You ever kind of rib Bret about that?
I can't really think of a touchdown that was called back that we didn't end up going down and getting. So I think the touchdown passes, that I finished with are the ones that I was credited with, which is pretty cool. Now the thing that was, does kind of stick a thorn in my side. So in 1996, playing out at Houston, I threw for 398 yards that night. Had a pass that was dropped, which would have put me over 400. Again, passes are caught, they're dropped. Obviously sometimes it's the quarterback's fault. A lot of times it's the quarterback's fault, right? But it was interesting. So I didn't have the most yards, cumulative yards, because I had a snap that was snapped over my head, lost 20 yards or so on the play. So, at the time it was a record for most yards in a game, but not most cumulative yards. So the negative rushing yards really hurt me. And again, if you knew me back in the 90s, I wasn't a rushing quarterback anyway. So.
Hey, speaking of that, with all the air raid offenses and everyone lining up, everybody in the spread option and all these great offenses that we have today, which one would you have liked to played in?
It's interesting because I was a guy I was comfortable under center, taking my 5-step drop, everything being, a timing pattern, every now and then a 7-step drop. And then sometimes third and long, second and long, I would be in shotgun. But I was comfortable there. But to say that I wouldn't want to be in an air raid attack would be nonsense. So I definitely think playing in some of these offenses today would be super fun, and just have the opportunity, just, again, not throwing it every down, but just having the opportunity to really make a choice whether you hand it off or the defense. Yeah, being back in the shotgun, being able to stand and see the field, see how things develop would be really cool.
I got you. We had John Bond on the show several months back, and we asked him that same question. He said he wouldn't limp as much if he got to play in the air raid. He would have really enjoyed that.
I don't know. I'm feeling some of those hits for sure, and I'm sure if I was in an air raid, I would have felt them as well. So very, very, Sunday mornings then were very, very rough. Every morning now gets pretty rough. So part age, part quarterback days,
And this is brought to you by CBD oil, right? No, joking.
Yeah, exactly. Get those advertisements rolling, man.
Lee, let me ask you this. Well, what happened with football after Southern Miss? How far did you go? How far did you push it? How much did you want to do it? Did you ever want to get in coaching? Talk about after you left Southern Miss, what were your football days like?
Yeah, when I finished my last game against Nevada in 1998, that was it. My cleats were hung up. I never went to a pro day, never went to a tryout. Again, it wasn't because I just didn't want to. It's just kind of the way the cards fell. When I finished in 1998, I had been interviewing with different companies. I was offered a job late January of 99 and immediately went to work in February of 1999. So, when I graduated in December of 98, there wasn't much time between, and I went ahead and jumped right to the world of work. And I never really looked back. And it is kind of funny because I did have a couple of opportunities. I did have a phone call from Dallas as well as Indianapolis Colts, to come out for a tryout. I declined. I turned it down. Again, I just felt like when I ended at Southern Miss, that was supposed to be the end of the Lee Roberts era, and it was. And like I said, I never really looked back. My kids pick on me now how things could have been differently if I'd have gone on. Of course, they're thinking monetarily,
right?
And I'm thinking, hey, if I went on to the NFL, I might not have had 4 boys. It might have stopped at just the one, and you just never know.
So
but it was. I did have thoughts. Obviously, I mean, I thought that I could go and try and do, and the timing was tough. Like I said, I had started working immediately in that February, and just went on to work. So.
Wow, think about it. You could have been the backup to Troy Aikman or Peyton Manning, 2 Hall of Famers.
Absolutely, I know that'd have been pretty wild. And
I'll throw something else. I'll go on. Go on.
No, I was going to say, and obviously Tony Romo came along, shortly after that, and that just, people talk about that, and they're like, man, that could have been you, Lee, and I'm like, it wasn't. So I finished my career at Southern Miss, and I was happy to say that, that was the final of the playing days.
Well, you know what? I just thought about this. The backup to Troy Aikman was a guy named Jason Garrett. Whatever happened to that guy, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, but whatever happened to him, I'm sure his life turned out to be nothing, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely, absolutely.
You have lived and breathed Southern Miss football your entire life. What makes Southern Miss so special, and especially why have they seemed to have success when the chips are usually always stacked against them?
I do. I mean, I do. I believe black and gold, and obviously when I came here to Southern Miss, it was to win championships, and made lifelong friends. I made obviously the coaches, the players I played with, and really even fans. I mean, there's still fans that come up to me today that just remember my playing days, and all those things will always be big memories for me. But but Southern Miss football, it's more than just football. I mean, it's family. It's the little things. It's the road trips. It's the early morning workouts. It's all those little things that we did to try to make ourselves, better on the football field. I was in an era where Conference USA was started. In 1995, we played in the Conference Alliance. The winner would get to go to the Liberty Bowl. We got beat by East Carolina, and they got to go to the Liberty Bowl. And that kind of left a little bad taste in our mouth. And the next year, the conference was formed. 1996, we get beat by Houston out there in double overtime. Houston goes to the Liberty Bowl, and we get so that's 2 years back to back that I've truly felt like we had the opportunity to go do something, and just a bad taste left in our mouth. And so we really made an effort, a strategic effort the following year that we weren't going to let that happen. We were co-champs in 96, but we wanted to win the conference outright, and we did that in 97. And, it's just those little things. We built, from the ground up, try to do some really good things here at Southern Miss. And obviously back in the day, the 50s, there was the national championship team. Obviously the Reggie Collier era was some great players. I mean, there's a lot of great players that came through Southern Miss, but I feel like really when Conference USA started, that Southern Miss football, that was kind of the beginning of what we really could have some, phenomenal years in football. And we have obviously some ups and some downs. 98 was somewhat a disappointment coming off the huge win at Pittsburgh versus Pittsburgh in the Liberty Bowl and not winning the conference the following year. That was a disappointment, knowing that was my senior year and, couldn't win 3 straight conference championships. But we did have two championships back to back. I'm very, very proud.
Well, you talk about Coach Jeff Bauer. I was always shocked that Coach Bauer still does not. I never thought he got enough love and press when he was coaching, but definitely since he has left coaching and stepped down and gone toward retirement, I'm still kind of shocked that we don't see his name pop up for when people talk about great coaches or great things. He's still not mentioned. He was not only a phenomenal coach, he was an amazing, super phenomenal coach. Talk about Coach Bauer.
No, you're exactly right. And was it 16 or 18 consecutive winning seasons that he was one that built that?
Yeah.
And a guy that again played quarterback here and stayed on as an assistant, moved on, came back as an assistant, and then eventually the head coach. And with him starting here at Southern Miss, and like I said, the 16 or 18, I can't remember off the top of my head how many consecutive seasons that he started. I mean, that was a huge thing for him and what he was able to accomplish. And yeah, if he's not recognized as one of the greatest coaches in college football, he really should be. I mean, Coach Bauer did some tremendous things for this university and for this community. And, he still lives here in Hattiesburg and is, well represented around town. You'll see him at baseball, football, basketball games, and, on the golf course. He's with his grandkids and, of course, his wife. They go to and from the beach a good bit as well. So I can remember the day Coach Bauer stepped foot in my home, as an 18-year-old high school senior. Really didn't put it in perspective then how big of a deal it was. And for him to come into my home and offer me a scholarship to play quarterback at Southern Miss was a really big deal. And for me to be able to take him up on that offer and to come out here and, like I said, do the things that we were able to do and win conference championships and, help to fill the rock.
You're talking about recruiting there. Of course, recruiting is a different beast now. Heaven forbid we got the internet, right?
Right.
But what was your recruitment like? Who were some schools that you were really considering? And what are maybe some fun recruiting stories of coaches coming into your home and talking to you?
So the stories with recruiting are short and sweet as far as that goes. So I wasn't a highly touted quarterback out of high school. I only actually got to play my senior year, which, I say that hurt me, but in the long run, I felt like it helped me. It gave me the opportunity to come to Southern Miss. I played behind a guy named Thad Busby that went on to play at Florida State, and he was a 3-year starter in high school and being a 2-year starter at Florida State. So I really didn't have much exposure or really much experience playing football at the high school level, except for my senior year. So, where I really got recognized was at camps. I went to the Alabama football camp. I went to the Bowden Academy, and talking about, Coach Will Hall, he and I were actually at the same Bowden Academy in 1993. The summer of 1993, so the summer before my senior year, I actually won the senior high Bowden Award, and he won the junior high Bowden. It's kind of neat there that we have that little connection. And something we'll be able to talk about, down the road as it gets underway with Southern Miss. To say all that, to say that there wasn't a whole lot of recruiting trips other than, I did take some trips to Auburn and to Florida State, Florida. Never even came over to watch a football game at Southern Miss, as a recruit. Came over with a friend once, but when I came over on my official visit for Southern Miss, I truly felt like this was home. This was the place that, I was supposed to come. This was where I was meant to be. And obviously 180 miles from my family made it that much easier for them to come. For Lee, I'm going to say that, not a highly touted recruit, but it ended up pretty quick in my hand.
All right.
Well, can you talk about the '97 Liberty Bowl and finally getting Southern Miss back to a bowl game and the fan support there at that bowl?
So, Stephen, that was a couple of years before you started following. If you'd have been at
Yes.
that game, and you would know how cold, but what an atmosphere. Heath, not sure if you were there or not, but man, the atmosphere in the Liberty Bowl in 1997 was just phenomenal. The fans supported the whole week down on Bill Street and at the Peabody Hotel. Seeing the fans was just, again, a huge memory in my part. I mean, if you ask me some of my favorite memories of Southern Miss, obviously my first start, but the Liberty Bowl was definitely on the top as well. And again, I felt like that was really the beginning of something great for Southern Miss. I mentioned that the 2 previous years, we came up just a little short from making it to the Liberty Bowl, but the 1997 season was super special in the fact that we won the conference outright. The Liberty Bowl bell handed to us on the field as we, beat Houston on our home court, on our home field. The field goal post was carried off the field. Just some huge memories in that year that really propelled us to get to that Liberty Bowl. But you're right, a 41-7 win over Pittsburgh, where people really didn't know much about Southern Miss. Pittsburgh didn't know much about Southern Miss, and it was a total team domination, a total team effort. We scored on all 3 phases of the game: offensively, defensively, and special teams. And to look at the Southern Miss team of 1997, you'd have to say it was one of the best ever, because we did have defense, we did have special teams, and then we had a pretty good offense as well. And so a pretty balanced attack, a pretty balanced team. And, again, looking at the guys on that roster that went on to do great things in the NFL, and then guys that went on to do just great things in their professional life. Super proud of that moment for sure.
Well, I wanted to also say my friend Heath Hinton, who's a friend of yours as well, he said that Pittsburgh was kind of talking down to you guys. What were some of the things that Pittsburgh were saying going into that game?
One Pittsburgh felt like that they were in a conference that was bigger than Conference USA. They felt like, we were a lesser opponent. I can't really think of things right off, that they would say to us other than what other teams wouldn't say. Football, there's a lot of talk between both teams, and really it wasn't that Pittsburgh said the wrong things. It was just that we had our mind made up that we were going to go into Memphis and we were going to take home that Liberty Bowl trophy and carry it back to Hattiesburg, and that's exactly what we did. So, there were some fans that we did run into that would run their mouth, and again felt like that we shouldn't have been there, and again felt like we were a lesser opponent. That was probably the biggest thing.
Right.
Wow. Lee, what's a fun moment for you that you came across, whether it be a celebrity or a politician or a fan of any kind that came up and said something to you about your playing days that caught you off guard?
I don't really know. I mean, golly, I mean, I run into a lot of people here in Hattiesburg that just kind of bring up some memories, and it makes me kind of jog my memory about some of those memories. And obviously, I don't remember everything about my days back in the '90s, and don't remember every play. Can't remember every win. I mean, I could maybe go back and think, the schedules, but it's neat just to run into people, whether you're in Hattiesburg or you're down at the beach and you have a Southern Miss shirt or a hat on, and people talk about Southern Miss and may not even know who you are until you introduce yourself, and they're like, wait, that name sounds familiar. So that's one of the biggest things to me is people do remember your name, maybe not always your face because you were covered up with the face mask, but people definitely do remember your name.
So, Lee, you talked about your 4 boys earlier. Do you coach them? Do you help them out? What's their path been like growing up under you?
They're each totally different, which is good, and I like it for sure. My oldest, played football starting at third grade and went through eighth grade. And then he hung up the cleats. He then became a baseball player. My second son played 2 years of youth football. And so his final year was in sixth grade. He decided football wasn't for him. He's actually on the basketball team at Southern Miss. They're leaving to go out to play the conference basketball tournament. So he became a basketball player. I'm like, wow, where did this come from? You know, my third son is a basketball and baseball player as well. He's now talking that he may decide to try out for football. And in the back of my mind, I'm part excited, but also part like, hey, why wait till your junior year to try this? You know,
Right.
and you know, and that just goes to show you, I mean, what a sport football is, that, you know, people want to be a part of it. You know, they want to be a part of something, and he's back of his mind, he thinks that, you know, he wants to be a part of a football team, and so be it. I'm going to support him. Not going to push him, but I'm going to support him if that's what he wants, for sure. And then my youngest, you know, I don't know if he'll ever play football. He's a basketball. I did coach all of them in different forms and different fashions, and, you know, different years. And like I said, they're all different. They all were coached differently. They all responded differently, and their love for sports is great. But they all love things differently about different sports, for sure.
That's great. Now, does your wife rib you and say that they get their athletic ability from her? You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what she says. Yeah.
we're all married to the same woman.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
All right. So there was obviously a big hit that Patrick Surtain laid on somebody in the Houston game, known as the hit. Talk about that play, please.
Well, first of all, when I talk about Patrick Surtain, he was Patrick Surtain when I knew him, and then he became Patrick Surtain. So at what point maybe we all pronounced his name wrong? I don't know. Regardless, Patrick Surtain became a phenomenal football player. You know, a guy that was unbelievable at Southern Miss, a good friend of mine, a good teammate, went on to do great things in the NFL, and now has a great son that's a great player as well. And I'm gonna get to the next story about that. But you want to hear about the hit. So the hit, I don't know what the guy lost out of his mouth or his mouthpiece. We're playing University of Houston, and he comes up from the secondary, and it's one of those hits that probably would be fined now or ejected. And man, he hit the wide receiver in the flat, and he never saw it coming. And like I said, I don't know if it was teeth that flew out of his mouth or his mouthpiece, but Patrick Surtain, he would definitely one that would come up and hit you. So a phenomenal player, phenomenal teammate, for sure.
Lee, what was the hardest hit you ever took?
The hardest single hit was my senior year at Tulane. Bret Timmons, a player for Tulane. I was rolling to my left, looking back to the right, and he ear-holed me, and I think my helmet was the first thing that hit the turf. So, and that was the old turf that had concrete underneath it, and you know, that was truly the only time I had ever been knocked out of a football game, and honestly don't remember much about it. I did see the film, so I can certainly talk a little bit about it, but didn't know much at the time, for sure. But that was my hardest single hit, for sure.
Wow. Lee, was there ever a moment when you were playing a game, playing against somebody or with somebody, one of your teammates, that you were like, wow, this person is a phenomenal football. They're better than me. Did you ever have that moment where it was like, wow, this guy's on another level than I am?
Oh, I played against a ton of them, and it can, you know, stories can go on and on. But so I mentioned the single most hard hit that I received was at Tulane. The game that I was hit the most often was at Florida State, 1996. Again, that was a game I was playing against a former high school teammate. Thad Busby was the starting quarterback. I was the starting quarterback for Southern Miss. But on the defensive line for Florida State, they had 3 All-Americans, and those guys could play. And it's funny, I bring that up to my kids, and they're like, wait, Peter Boulware? Who's that? Bernard Wilson? Who's that? Andre Wadsworth? Who? I said,
I know those guys.
Go go look them up. They're all first and second round draft picks that had great pro careers, and they were, college All-Americans as well. So, and those three guys were on the defense line for Florida State. That was amazing years for Florida State as well. But that was a game that, when Coach Bauer finally did take me out of the game, it was like, whew, thank goodness.
That story brought to you by CBD oil, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go, right again.
That's where you still hurt in the mornings, right? When you wake up, was from that game.
That's right. I mean, we tried to do multiple things to slow those guys down and, bring in an extra tackle, put him in the backfield, just do a lot of different things. And man, there was no slowing down Florida State. Their pass rush was phenomenal.
Wow. So, yeah, what was that like playing down there in Tallahassee? You're a Florida guy. What was that like for you?
It was neat. It was, it would have been neat anyway, just playing down there because that's where I'm from. But to play against a former teammate, we had a lot of high school faculty and friends that made the trip down there. And I actually had shirts made that were, a half Seminole shirt, a half Southern Miss shirt, which was pretty cool. And, we played the first quarter pretty well, but the last three quarters weren't very good at all. Florida State, just that stadium, that chant they do is really, really cool. There's a couple places I can really remember when you walk out of there. It's like, wow. One is Rocky Top, at Neyland Stadium, and then obviously the war chant.
Other than Neyland Stadium, and there at Tallahassee when we played Florida State, what are some other stadiums that really stood out in your mind? Like, man, this is a neat place to play.
First and foremost, we played down at the University of Georgia in 1996. It was right after the Olympics. They were in the Atlanta area, and the first football game in Athens Stadium, right after they had refinished the hedges. And so we beat Georgia that game 11-7. And, we're able to take home some hedges, still have some in my, scrapbook. So that was definitely a neat memory and a great stadium, a great venue to play in for sure. Played down at the University of Florida twice, so down in the Swamp. And that's a stadium now that is tough to play in. Obviously, just the rich tradition down there in Gainesville, and the way the Swamp is built, it's a bowl right on top of you. Rocky Top was loud, but it was built out. The Swamp's built right there on top of you. The fans are really, really close. Played at Alabama just about, I think, every year during my time. Some in Birmingham, some in Tuscaloosa, and then actually played at Penn State my senior year. So played in a lot of great venues and a lot of great atmospheres.
Wow. Well, that is an impressive list, Lee. That's a lot of fun stories and memories there.
No, it's again, talking about pain, a lot of pain from those places as well. But, you talked about, some of the famous people that I played against. I mentioned some of the guys from Florida State, but then the guys like, Peyton Manning. I mean, just that was really cool to be able to share the field with Peyton Manning. We did that in 1997, which was his senior year. So I'm telling you, man, memories for sure. I was blessed to get to play the game of football and blessed to be able to walk after the game. So,
yeah. Wow.
Well, what? Because Southern Miss just really hasn't been up to par here lately. In your opinion, what is Southern Miss missing for them to get back to where, we are? College football knows them as being a quote-unquote powerhouse like they were with your former coach, and then again there for a short while with Larry Fedora.
A lot has changed. I mean, if you look back at, when I was recruited in 1993 and now in 2021, I mean, obviously a lot has happened between then.
Right.
One, you just look at, the universities and the football programs that have popped up between, around this area. Troy University being one of them, University of Alabama, Birmingham being another, South Alabama being another program that has popped up. And those are programs that are up and coming. And then you look at how recruiting is. I mean, Coach Bauer was a phenomenal recruiter. He was able to go find, what they call a diamond in the rough type player.
Mm-hmm.
The Delius Thomases, the TJ Slaughters, Sherrod Gideons, those guys that, got overlooked, but became phenomenal college and professional players. Where now recruiting, you're not getting overlooked the way recruiting is these days with,
Right.
huddle and coaches' access to social media with these players. Now it's just about commitment, and kids buying into the program. And I think that's what Coach Will Hall is going to do. I mean, he's going to draw a circle around Hattiesburg and say, hey, I'm going to go 300 miles in every direction and try to find the players that fit our program. And it's neat to see what he's already been able to do. Obviously have not played a football game, but some of the recruits that he was able to flip and get to sign, some guys that's transferring in. I just think that, kids just got to buy into the program, and Will Hall's going to do that. Is that the missing piece? I don't really know.
Right.
I mean, we've got talent on this team. I think Coach Hobson did a good job, bringing in talent. Obviously there's more to it though. And, kids just, they've got to get out there and perform, and, putting your coaching duties on the hands and shoulders of a 18-year-old kid is very, very difficult.
And I got two more questions for you, but my first one is, what similarities do you see between your former coach and the new coach that's in there now?
I think Coach Hall gets it. Coach Bauer, he got it. He knew what kind of player could come to Southern Miss. And again, you weren't going to go get a 5-star recruit coming to Southern Miss. You've got to go get those 2 and 3 stars and develop those players. And that's what Coach Bauer was able to do. And I think that's what Will Hall is going to do. I mean, he said it in his opening press conference when he was hired and named head football coach here that, he was going to hire the best teachers. And he said, no offense, they're going to be the best teachers on campus. And basically he said, hey, I'm going to get these coaches that know the game. They're going to teach the game. And that's what these young kids need, because, so many kids coming out of high school, they don't get that out of high school these days. And he said that, we're going to make sure we get the talent, and we're going to, teach that talent how to play. So, and I think that's what Coach Bauer did as well. I mean, he brought in guys that knew the game and loved the game and could teach the game very, very well.
Lee, we've heard all kinds of fun recruiting stories on this show. And so we ask our guests who've used to play, you don't have to mention any of yours, and you don't have to mention the names of the person or the school, or you can. It doesn't matter to us. But what's the absolute craziest recruiting story you have ever heard?
Oh, craziest recruiting story, man. I mean, I'd have to say the craziest recruiting story would be some of the things that coaches would do, to get the players to buy in, and I'll talk about Coach O over at LSU. I mean, he was a great recruiting coach, and he would do just about anything, to get his kids to come, and kids, they related. And that's what Coach Will Hall, I think, is going to do as well. Not that he's going to do anything crazy, but he's going to relate with these kids, and he's going to get in these homes, and he's going to show these families that, he's going to care for these kids. I think that's going to be the biggest part of recruiting there. But as far as crazy recruiting stories, I really can't think of one, to be honest with you. I'll say this: when I was the one that was hosting recruits, I probably wasn't the most fun guy to host recruits. I remember when Jeff Kelly came over from Citronelle High School. He came over, and I was married in college. Not sure if you know that or not, but he hung out literally at my apartment with my wife and I, and we watched some film of Southern Miss football. Then I remember one night we went bowling. We did things like laser tag. So I probably was not the guy that was going to impress some of these young guys about showing them a good time. That was just, I was a simple guy. So, but I'm sure there are some crazy recruiting stories out there. I'll be honest, I really haven't heard many of them.
And my last question for you is this. Obviously, you're a broadcaster now on the Call of Southern Miss. Mm-hmm. Tell us a fun or crazy story that's happened to you during a broadcast.
During a broadcast, well, I'll say this, working with John Cox has been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
John is, a very high OCD type guy. He wants things perfect. Whether it's, getting to the stadium many, many, many hours ahead of time to get things set up, or to make sure things go smooth through a broadcast. He just wants it. He wants it to be perfect. And obviously over the 6 years that I've broadcasted, we've had multiple hosts back in the studio. And it takes them a few games to really understand how things are to run the way John Cox wants things to be run. And so there's just been some fun conversations off air about, this or that, but some crazy things that have happened in my broadcast. I mean, outside, like I said, outside of having to get to the stadium super early and try to beat, the press, to the midline, I really can't think of one. I'm sure as soon as we finish the call, it'll pop up. But it's been a really good 6 years, and working with John Cox has been awesome. Honestly, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you'd asked me that I would be doing radio commentary, I'd have probably laughed in your face. And, people ask me, well, how did you even get in it? And I'm like, I really don't know. I did two high school games, just filling in for somebody for our local high school. And then, John just happened to call me kind of at the end of Vic Purvis's era when he was thinking about retiring, and asked me if I was interested. And I was like, well, absolutely. Just to stand up there and talk about football? Sure, I would love to. And I was very fortunate the first year that I was on the broadcast team. I just kind of oversaw things. I kind of stood behind, saw the way things. I was at every home game, just kind of got to see how things were run. But then the next year, where I was sitting in the color commentary seat, just get on there and just roll with it. I mean, there was no practice, there was no script. It was John calling the play, and then I continued to talk about the play. And I feel like it's been a very, very good time for John and myself.
Well, man, look, thank you so much for your time this evening. And real quick, before we let you go, can you tell us how people can follow you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram, but mainly on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @LeeRoberts5. So just @LeeRoberts5. You can follow me on Twitter there. So I'm on there. I probably don't post enough, but who knows? Maybe down the road I'll continue to post some more stuff. So sure, give me a follow. That'll be great.
Awesome. And also, one last thing. Do you have any updates from the school about the spring game for Southern Miss?
They did put a date out there. I know there's, I think, 15 practices that they're going to get, and I think they're running about 3 a week, usually Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So I think they probably just finished the second week of spring ball. So I'm thinking there's probably about 8 or so days left. So if I'm thinking correctly, I would think the spring game may be in 3 weeks or so. Don't hold me to that, but I think it will be one of those. And fans can go to practice. I know they're allowing them to come and sit in the stands at practice. There's a certain gate that they will need to enter, but they're usually in the mornings. I think they will even practice on Saturday morning. So Coach Will Hall, he's open for things. So obviously come by and check things out.
Well,
Lee, are you going to push for the alumni flag football game at the spring game?
Ooh, I like push for it to happen or push to play in it? Because I'm definitely not going to play in it. So,
and that would be our third and final plug for CBD oil. We met our contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if I need to push for it to happen, sure, I'll be a guy to push for it to happen. That'd be kind of cool to see it at halftime or whatever. But yeah, I'm not going to be the guy behind center for sure.
I understand.
And look, man, thank you so much. And hopefully we can do it again soon, especially when Southern Miss kicks off this fall.
That'll be great, man. I enjoyed talking to you guys, and God bless, and Southern Miss to the top.
Yes, thank you so much.
To the top. Thanks, Lee.
I appreciate it.
Yes, and I will just go ahead and say it, Heath, to you, Southern Miss to the top.
I hear you, Stephen. Yeah, Southern Miss to the top. It's always fun to see, former players how they adapt in their post career. We've seen that with a couple of our guys on the show that it was such a smooth transition, and it's funny how the game of football kind of calls them back in. They don't know how. So it was fun to see Lee, who was ready to hang up his cleats at the end of his playing days, turned down the interview with the Cowboys and the Colts, and now here he is. He's back being the color analyst of Southern Miss. And, I think that transition has fit perfect. Lee was mature beyond his years in his college playing days, and I think that was showed on and off the field, and still so today, and especially when he was talking about his 4 boys and his family. And, it was just interesting to see how his life in football has kind of become with football. And so it was fun to see how all that kind of evolved and how he kind of got back in. And, of course, John Cox, a great broadcaster, phenomenal broadcaster for Southern Miss. And for them to do the games together, that's a very quality product that Southern Miss puts out with Lee Roberts and John Cox.
Yes. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. We hope you have enjoyed it. We will be back here next week on the Stingray Show. But until then, have a great weekend, and enjoy your college baseball.
Hey, Stephen, props on that Cobra Kai Southern Miss shirt.
Thank you, Brody. The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you. This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever! So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes. Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings. He's got it. Jennings. He's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee! They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium! Are you kidding me? My God almighty! What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry